Problem of the student scoring 72 out of 100 points in their first exam, and they have 5 exams during the entire term, and if the second exam is worth 100 points, what score does the student need to achieve to get an average of 81 for both the 2 first tests? So we know that in order for the student to have an average of 81, the student would have already had to have achieved an 81% on the first test. So we know that an average means that both tests would be, or the average comes out to be 81. So we would have to look at what the total score would be if the student had gotten 81 on both tests. And that total score would be 81 plus 81, which is 162, which divided by 2, of course, is going to come out to 81 and give you the average. So in this case, we know the student would need to have a total of 162 points for both tests. And since we know that the student has already gotten a 72, we're going to subtract the 72% from 162, which gives us 90%. And we know that the student needs to achieve a 90% in order to get an average of 81. So we're going to add 72 plus 90, which is going to give us 162 divided by 2 tests, of course, comes out to 81. And so the student would need to achieve a 90 on the second test in order to have an average of 81 for both tests. Now, if we're walking into the student needing to achieve an average of 75 for all 5 tests at the end of the semester, when they only scored 72 on the first 4 tests, what would the score of the final test need to be in order for the student to end up with a 75% average for all 5 tests? So we know that in order for the student to have an average of 75, the total that the student would need out of all 5 tests, if they had scored 75 on every test, would be 375. So we know the total that the student needs to have in order to have an average of 75 is 375. We also already know that the student has gotten 72% on each of the first 4 tests. So we need to know at this point what that final test score needs to be, because the student is going to fall short of that 75 based on the score of the first 4 tests. So what we're going to do is we're going to add the 375, or we're going to add 75 times 5, which we know is going to give us the average of 75, which is 375. We're going to add together the 72%, or multiply it by 4, because we already know that the student has gotten a 72% on the first 4 tests. The total of the first 4 tests right now is 288. So if we subtract the 288, which is the sum of the first 4 tests, from 375, which is the total that the student needs to achieve in order to have an average of 75, we're going to subtract the 288 from the 375, which will give us 87%. So we know that the student needs to achieve an 87% on the final test in order to come out with a 75% for the entire course.